Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. Hey, before we get started on today's episode, I want to share two opportunities that are on Of the West right now. If you are looking for something in the livestock, equipment, or equine sectors of the industry, then this might be right up your alley. Over the last few months, we have been working with the American Society of Agriculture Appraisers and the American Society of Equine Appraisers to get more people interested in becoming equine, livestock, and equipment appraisers. The role of an appraiser is somebody who provides valuations as they're needed for bank appraisals, attorney and litigation appraisals, accountant appraisals, tax purposes, insurance appraisals, and government entity appraisals like for the IRS or USDA, that type of thing. As an appraiser, you have the stability and flexibility that comes with owning your own business. So you can work part-time, full-time, as much as you like, as little as you like. You can make it a side hustle. You don't actually work for the American Society of Agriculture or Equine Appraisers. They're just simply the organization that you join to become a qualified industry appraiser. You work for yourself. Regardless of if you're interested in becoming an equine appraiser, a livestock appraiser, or an equipment appraiser, you do have to have at least 5 years of experience in that specific sector of the industry. If you're interested in learning more, you can go to ofthewest.co and search for appraiser, and those two opportunities will come right up. Or you can grab the link to each of those in our show notes because we made them really easy for you guys to grab. But either way, this is a really great opportunity. And like I said, it's something that you can do part-time, full-time. You can do it as a side hustle. There's full flexibility, which is really important for those of us who live in rural America and who have ag and Western operations or obligations that we also have to work around. Like I said, if you're interested in learning more, you can go to our website or you can grab the link in our show notes. And hopefully that's something you guys are interested in. Welcome to today's episode of Leaders of the West. Today we're sitting down with our guest, Dave Dellin, who's the CEO of the American Paint Horse Association, or APHA, as you may know it. Dave is somebody who is really well known in the equine industry and has a really diverse background in the equine industry. He's somebody who was a professional horse trainer. He has been a judge. He first joined APHA back in 2012 as their director of judges and served in that role up until last year where he became CEO of APHA. And today we're going to talk a little bit about APHA, what they've got going on, and also one of their events that I absolutely love called the Cowgirl Gathering, which is coming up in Fort Worth in the next few weeks. So let's just get right to it. Dave Dellin, CEO of APHA, here we go. Dave, thank you so much for being here today. I am excited to dig into a variety of different things, but to kick things off, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what has led to where you're at now?
Absolutely. I just want to tell you, thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of the podcast and really enjoy what you're doing for the industry. So super excited to be here and very glad to be a part of it. You know, I kind of have probably a bit of a unique story within the horse universe, so to speak. Grew up kind of as a horse crazy kid. Loved them from the get-go. Did not grow up on a big ranch or anything. Kind of middle-class America. But then going off to college, I really thought I wanted to be a veterinarian at first. And the more I rode around with a few vets, I decided that was definitely not the path for me. And at the time, I'd been training a lot, showing a lot of horses, really enjoyed the horse show world and all of those pieces. And thought I wanted to be a horse trainer for a while. So got a degree in animal science and a minor in ag econ from Oklahoma State, and then jumped off the path of going down the road as a horse trainer and got to work for some fantastic trainers throughout the industry. Gil Gallion is really where I went right after college. It taught me a ton about training and the horse business in general. And I always joke with people and tell them that I got paid to go to grad school at the Gallion Ranch. And so it was a lot of fun, learned a lot there, and kind of through my time as a horse trainer and moving out, having my own business, I started serving on the NSBA board of directors and eventually the NSBA executive committee, which really kind of opened my eyes to the running of organizations and how these organizations really function, and try to better the industry that we're in. And that really kind of caught my eye and something that I really enjoyed doing. And about that time, our two boys were both entering kindergarten, and kind of that time frame where she didn't want to be gone as much, didn't go to as many horse shows. And Billy Smith called me and wanted to know if I would be interested in coming to work at the American Paint Horse Association as the director of judges. And I judged a lot and done a lot of clinics and taught a lot for different organizations. And so that gave me an opportunity to stay home more. And so I did that starting in about 2012, 2013 is when I started there. And then moved recently into the CEO position. Billy moved on and is now the commissioner at the National Reining Horse Association. And I was fortunate enough to be able to assume the leadership at APHA.
Awesome. Okay, well, I want to go back to the little note that you said about you were going to grad school at the Galleon Ranch, because that is something I tell people all the time. When you're out of college, it is so important to find roles where you are able to learn. Because when you're in college, and I'm a big proponent of college or whatever it is that you want to do, but you have to pay to learn. But when you have a job, you have the opportunity to get paid to learn. And if you have the right role where you are able to make money and also learn at the same time, you have a sweet deal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you got to keep in mind on assistant trainer wages, you're not going to make much money as you're learning.
No.
It is enough to survive and way better than paying for the education. You do get paid. So,
no kidding.
Yeah. I actually tell a lot of people, especially prospective judges that are coming up through the ranks, we've got a great collegiate judging program within the United States. There's a lot of colleges that have horse judging programs. And I tell a lot of those students when I talk to them, they'll say, hey, what do I need to know from coming out of a collegiate program and becoming a carded judge with an association? And I often tell them you need to get some dirt on your boots. That's one of the most important parts that you can do, is to have some real world experience where it's not just a video playing, where you know what that horse feels like because you've done it. And I think that's a key component to being a well-rounded judge for sure.
Well, too, I always think of right when you're coming out of college, too, entry-level positions, oftentimes they don't have the biggest salary. And you come out of college thinking, man, you're looking at those salary ranges that are when you're at the top of your game,
Sure.
Not the entry-level side of things. And I remember my first job out of college, the guy that I worked for, he had sat me down and he said, this is your salary package. There's not a ton there, but you also get benefits, which is, a huge deal at the time. And you also have all of these other aspects like being able to have personal development and just those opportunities to learn. And although you want to put a price tag on them, you also can't, because they are so crucial to just providing you that wisdom and knowledge that you can take with you for the rest of your life. That's the cool thing about learning, is you have that forever. You're never going to lose that.
Absolutely. Well, and I think to couple just what you're saying, you've got to continue to learn. I don't care where you're at in your career. I don't care what you're doing. I think that hunger to learn is something that has served me really well. I'm still very hungry to learn. That's why one reason I love taking new roles or doing new things is trying to learn how to master those and become successful at them. And I think that's a key component to having a lot of success in whatever you're trying to do.
So on the topic of learning, so you've been at APHA for the last almost 12 years. But like you said, you've been at the helm of the organization since June-ish, June or October, depending on how you look at it, going from interim to executive. But what is the biggest lesson that you've learned in that time since moving over to now being at the top of the food chain?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it's self-reflection. Honestly, I do that a lot. I've always done that a lot. I tried to be very critical of my own horses when I was training. I tried to be very critical of my own decisions in a leadership role. Anytime you're in a leadership role, and have a lot of self-reflection. And I think that's a key component to what I've learned, is trying to heighten that even more in a true leadership role. We've got 40-ish staff members. We have 40,000 members in the American Paint Horse Association that are worldwide. And so the decisions that you make every day affect a lot of people in a lot of ways. And so I think it's important to be really honest with yourself in that. And I think it's probably the biggest thing I've learned, is being honest of where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. And then the second step to that that's so important is surrounding yourself with people that really help lift up in the areas that you may not be as strong in. That's a big component of being a good leader, is surrounding yourself with people that can help you in the ways that you really need to be helped.
Oh, absolutely. And you have a unique perspective too, because you have always led a large team of people at APHA, whether it was on the director side of things or now where you are. And that responsibility increases as you go up the ladder. But I have two questions then that come from that. Number one is, what are some of the best tips that you have for leading people and leading teams? And then the second question is, what's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself from being a leader?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest tip to me is to treat people the way that you want to be treated. I know that sounds so simple and it's what we learned in kindergarten, but man, it makes all the difference in the world of being honest with people, being honest with your employees, being upfront about things, both the good and the bad. I think that's a key component, is having that kind of authenticity and honesty in everything that you do. And I think for me, that's probably one of the biggest things, is being able to do that. That's probably my best tip, is if you'll treat everyone you come in contact with the same way that you want to be treated, you'll often get that in return, and it works a lot better. Not always. Anytime you deal with the general public or a large group of people, there's tough conversations. There's people that could be upset about something at some point in time. And you have to rely on some conflict resolution in those situations. But you still come out better, I believe, if you treat them the way you want to be treated. To your second question, I would probably say that you can learn something from everyone. Could be good, could be bad, but you absolutely can learn something from everyone.
Oh, I will tell you, I am so excited that you gave those answers, because those are two things that I feel very passionately about. And going back to the golden rule, I think that that's one of the things that, and not to get on a soapbox by any means, that's kind of wrong with America, because we treat people one way, which is not the way that we expect others to treat us. And that hypocrisy, man, that is an unfortunate problem. And I think it's kind of funny is how many of those lessons you learn, like you said, in kindergarten, those foundational lessons. But man, until you are 90, they are still applicable in life. And it's not even on the business side of things. It's, on the horse side of things, or the animal side, whatever it is that you're doing, those foundational things. If you don't have your foundation in place, you're not going to have much of anything. But the golden rule is a huge aspect of that. And I think that that is something that, man, we could really change America for the better if we would all just practice the golden rule a little bit more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's something that people often see what they see, whether it be social media, Instagram, YouTube, television, movies, you name it. They see one aspect of what someone wants to create, but they think that's the way people really are. And the truth is that there's a whole lot of people that aren't necessarily putting themselves out there that do live by the golden rule. And it's not all about huge money and fancy cars or whatever it may be. It's about treating people the right way and trying to do the right thing in your everyday life. And I just think that's something that we all get wrapped into that. And I think it's unfortunate. And I do think it makes a huge difference on the way society views itself and the way that we view each other. And it's an inaccurate representation.
No, it is. And my other question about what you learn from yourself in being a leader is that you can learn something from everybody. That goes hand in hand there, because, man, I will say that I've learned a lot of lessons in life, often what not to do, which those can be some expensive lessons when you have to learn them on your own. But when you can watch somebody else and be observant and learn from them, and then kind of, put that in mental note in the back of your mind and say, okay, I don't think I'm going to do it that way because I just watched somebody do it that way. And I don't have to make that expensive lesson. But just being observant is a huge piece in being successful, whether that's in business or on a personal level. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where the self-reflection piece comes in. If we're all really honest with ourselves, you don't have to tell the world the details, but if you're honest with yourself, you can figure out what you're good at and what you need help with pretty quickly. And I think that's as long as you're trying to learn and trying to push towards those things and get better at whatever you're working on, I think that's exactly where that goes.
Yeah, you do have to be honest with yourself. And man, it is hard, because it can also be easy to lie to yourself, but you're not doing yourself any favors.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You'll find
Oh,
out the hard way if you do.
no kidding. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the upcoming Cowgirl Gathering that you guys host. It happens in Fort Worth here in a few weeks. You guys have been hosting this event for a few years, but let's take a few steps back and really talk about where did the idea for the Cowgirl Gathering come from?
Yeah. So, our very first Cowgirl Gathering was held in November of 2020. So you can kind of imagine how much of a struggle that was in that time frame. But it really stemmed from Billy Smith, who was the executive director at APHA before I walked into this role. It's something he had talked about a lot, and it's a component of our for-profit subsidiaries. So APHA really has three components to it. You have the main breed registry that most people think of when they think of APHA. You have a foundation, the APHF, that does charitable work. And then we also have a for-profit subsidiary called Mark for Greatness Properties that allows us to do multiple different activities outside of just paint horse activities. And so it really kind of gives us the best of all worlds. And we were talking about some different ideas within the Mark for Greatness wing of what we want to do with APHA. And he had talked about this idea of some sort of a celebration of cowgirls within the industry. And there's several other ones out there, but with our positioning being in the Fort Worth stockyards, we thought, man, what a great location, what a great place to really try to create that. And I think that was a big piece of where that started. And I still remember the conversation when Billy and Stephen Hayes was working for APHA at the time, and the three of us were sitting around talking about this. And we were all talking about powerful women in our lives that changed our career paths, or they gave us some great advice or some great guidance at some point in time. And I think that that's really at the heart of what we're trying to do with that event, is to have a celebration and recognize all those contributions that cowgirls do within the Western lifestyle industry.
Oh, and I will say, as somebody who has been as an attendee and as a speaker, you guys, if you haven't been to the Cowgirl Gathering, it is amazing. So to kind of paint a picture in case somebody listening isn't familiar with the event, there is the Essence Exchange, which is more of like a sit down fireside chat session, if you will, or days worth of session. But then you guys also host a breakaway roping, a barrel racing, a fashion show. Give us those details.
Yeah, so this year we're kind of in two different areas, because in the stockyards itself will also be the PBR World Finals and all the things that are going on there. So they're going to be doing some things in the Cowtown Coliseum. So we've moved the competition events for the Cowgirl Gathering out to the Will Rogers, but there will be a breakaway roping. There's all-girl team roping, as well as a barrel race, all out at Will Rogers. Then during that same weekend, and this is going on from May 9th through May 12th, so right over Mother's Day weekend, the events going on in the stockyards themselves are the Essence Exchange, the fashion show, and there's also a art show that benefits the APHF Foundation on Friday night. And we bring in all cowgirl artists that put their artwork up. People can buy their artwork. It's a great event. I love the art show. But to your point earlier, the Essence Exchange is definitely my favorite part as well. And historically, we had held that over in Cowboy Channel Studios, and we're super appreciative of them for letting us do that. It was a great setting to do it. This year, we changed that up a little bit, and we're going to put it in the Stockyard Station. And the reason why we did that was we've changed the dynamics of the Essence Exchange a little bit, and we're trying to make it a bit more of a interactive event. So not only do you get to hear some of the greatest female leaders within the Western lifestyle industry, but you actually get to have breakout sessions and talk to them one-on-one and in small groups and share ideas and truly network on a whole different level than what we've ever done before. And I think that was a big reason why we want to do that, is we wanted to be able to have that deeper connection between the speakers and be able to help people network and get to know each other better than just in a studio setting.
Oh, I love that idea. And you guys, I will tell you, this really is the coolest event that happens in the industry, and more people need to know about it. And I will say, there are all types of women that you guys have had as speakers throughout the years. I know Amanda Kimes has been highly involved. I remember when I was there, Jackie Crawford and Aaron Tormino, Billy Bray have all been speakers. This year, you guys have Paige Champion and Shaylee Ham, or West Desperado, as most people probably recognize her. But you guys bring in some heavy hitting women in the industry and across all disciplines too, which is really, really unique.
We do. We really want this to be both a networking event and an educational event to really hear some of that behind the scenes of how some of these ladies are running their businesses, how they do things within the Western lifestyle industry as a whole. And I think that that's a key component. This year, Chelsea Edsel is going to be our MC, which she's hysterical and fantastic to be around.
She is really the best.
She is. If you ever watch Cheers with Chelsea, she is a riot all the time. So we're really excited to have her be our MC. As you said, Paige Champion. We also have Janie Johnson this year, Shaylee Ham, Lexi Hoagland, the founder of Cowgirls and Cocktails, will be there. Tracy Sheffield, who's a huge part of the Texas Thoroughbred Association, and also Melanie Smith, who most people know from Solo Select Horses, and she is a entrepreneur extraordinaire, without a doubt, will be there as well.
Okay, well, pack my bags because I'm coming to Fort Worth. That is the best lineup. And I will say, every single year there is an amazing lineup. So at some point, you guys are going to, I don't know how you're going to top it because holy cow. But you know what that is? It's going to be easy to top because there are so many incredible women in our industry that haven't been highlighted yet. And we have an endless supply of talent in the Western world.
That is exactly what I was fixing to say. The cool part about it is there are so many powerful, brilliant women in the industry that are willing to come share their knowledge and come be a part of this, that we're just super, super thankful and appreciative year after year that they're willing to come do that, because it makes the event. There's no doubt.
Oh, it totally does. Okay. So people can still get tickets. Can they?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. They can still get tickets. If you just go to cowgirlgathering.com, you can still get tickets for that. And I highly encourage everyone to do that because it is a great event. There is still some room available, but definitely go get your tickets if you've not already. And it'll be fantastic. We look forward to seeing everybody there in Fort Worth again.
Oh, awesome. Okay. I am going to, again, switch gears a little bit and just go to the horse world as a whole. Holy cow. What a time to be alive if you love horses, if you own horses, whether you are a competitor or not. This is just unprecedented. So what do you see for the future of the horse industry as a whole, and then maybe more specifically for the paint horse industry?
Sure. Yeah, no, the horse industry right now is fascinating. It's moving at warp speed in many, many ways. And I think when you look back historically, there have been other times within history where the horse industry will speed up and slow down. Like any industry, it has peaks and valleys, but we're definitely on a trajectory right now that is just unprecedented and it's going great guns. I think one of the most interesting things about it, especially I'm putting my APHA hat on for a moment, but thinking about the history of how people have always kind of identified themselves within the horse world. Way back in the day, it was more by the breeds. That was really where the competition was at. And they were a quarter horse person or a paint person or a Palomino breeder or Appaloosa breeder, or whatever it may be. But it was kind of breed based is how people identified themselves. And then really from my generation forward, you started getting more discipline specific. And people really started identifying with, well, I'm a barrel racer, I'm a halter horse person, I'm a roper, whatever it may be. And I think that that's a changing piece within the industry that, especially as a breed association, we're very cognizant of, and something that we're really trying to work within as a breed registry and figure out new ways and find new avenues to be able to bring the APHA breed to the disciplines more so than trying to bring people just to the breed, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does.
Yeah. So I think that's a key component. We have a program called Chrome Cash that's gone really, really well the last few years. And that's basically side pots that happen at our affiliate partners events. So NCHA Futurity, NRCHA major events, NRHA major events, They will have Chrome Cache side pots, which are paint specific. You have to have a registered paint. You have to be a member. But your score from whatever you perform in the main class also carries over into that side pot. And it's a separate pool of money just for the paint horses. And that's a lot of what I mean when I talk about meeting them at their house or meeting them at their discipline versus saying, hey, just come to a paint show. We're a lot of fun. We are. It's awesome. I encourage everyone to come do it. But I think that when you look at how people identify themselves with that and then how busy the schedules are for these competitors, if you're serious in competing at a high level in any of these discipline-specific organizations, you have a discipline-specific event to go to at least once a month. I mean, it is all year long. They're going to some reining somewhere or some cutting for NCHA or whatever it may be. And so I think that's a key component for us as a breed is to be able to offer service to them, to those members at their events.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because when you would use the phrase meet people where they are, I thought, man, well, you guys do have some of the best incentives out there. So I'm glad that you shared those because that's what I was going to ask next. So you beat me to my own question.
No, it's all good. But in Chrome Cache is actually just one of them. So we have that. We have what's called PB RIP, Paint Barrel Racing Incentive Program, that is offered at tons of barrel racings throughout the year. And we're talking about right now, we've proposed a new incentive program as well for the APHA pointed shows. So that would be the ones that historically you would think of as an all-around APHA specific breed show that we're talking about calling it Paint Points, PAYNT points.
Oh,
but yeah, so that's in the works. That's been proposed and talked about, and we'll have a final decision on the details of that. But looking to roll some form of that by January of 25.
nice. Well, gosh, there is a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon. Again, for the horse industry as a whole, and then for the paint horse side of things as well. I'm going to switch over to the rapid fire round. So what is the best piece of business or personal advice that you've ever been given?
You know, probably the best piece is don't ride too high on your highs or too low on your lows, because either way, it's going to change.
Oh, yes. I know there are a lot of people out there who probably needed to hear that right now, myself included.
Yeah, it's either way. Don't get too wrapped up in that. Be looking forward to the future as well.
Okay, kind of a similar question, but a little bit different. If you could give people any words of wisdom and you knew that they would take them to heart, what would it be?
You know, I think we touched on it earlier. I would tell them never stop learning. Never stop trying to improve yourself, believe in yourself. You've got to know your limitations and surround yourselves with others that help in those areas. But just because you've surrounded yourself with good people doesn't mean that you should ever stop trying to improve on yourself either.
Ooh, yes. If you could go to dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Oh, that one's pretty easy. It'd be Jesus Christ. I've got so many questions that I would love to ask him.
Oh, amen to that. That has been a common answer to that question, and I understandably so. So. Nobody deserves it more. What is a quote that you lead your life by?
Oh, I've tried to live my life by this for a long time, but it's what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us.
Oh, I don't know that I've ever actually heard that quote before, but I like that.
Yeah, Ralph Waldo Emerson. That's a good one.
And it comes from a guy who I probably have heard it then, because anything that man said, I think that got written down in gold ink.
Absolutely. But yeah, that one, I've loved that ever since college.
Okay, final question. Let's talk about your favorite things. Is there a favorite book, podcast, maybe like a product or a service, something that's changed your life in some way that you think more people should know about?
I have so many of these. I would tell you right now, I am on a huge AI kick. I am fascinated by AI. I grew up in the era where we still had dial-up in the World Wide Web. And, you know, I remember those days. I was young, but I do remember those days before the internet. And I see the AI situation we're in right now very similar to that, but it's moving way faster. What took 20 years for the internet to do will take 5 years for artificial intelligence to move that much as far as its development and how commercialized it is, how available it is to the public. But based on that, I've been listening to a podcast called Sidecar Sync, and it is fantastic. If you're interested in any artificial intelligence stuff, it's a fantastic podcast.
Okay, well, I'm going to write that down, and I am going to make sure that we share that in the show notes as well so that anyone who's listening can go dig into that, because I am right there with you. I think that AI is absolutely unprecedented, and the change that's going to happen across all industries in the world in the next 5 to 10 years is honestly unimaginable. And that being said, I think that agriculture and Western industries, we have in the past been a little bit maybe slow on the uptake of change. And I think that, again, responsibly, but we have got to get in on AI and the future of that. We have to be willing to adapt and bring in technology into our businesses, because that will at some point in our industry make or break. And I think too, we've seen so many technological advancements in our industry, like on the machinery side and tractors that have GPS and,
Absolutely.
even like hydraulic squeeze chutes and things of that nature, like animal health and nutrition and the pharmaceutical side. But in our businesses, I think, man, we have really got to be willing to adapt and continue to bring in and bring on new technology and be on the forefront of that, because otherwise we're going to get thrown in the back seat in some wild taxi ride and have no idea where we're going and not be in charge. And we want to be in the driver's seat for sure.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's critically important for whatever organization, whatever business you have, to at least be aware of what it is. And so much of it, as you start doing a deep dive into the world of AI, you're going to find out there's a lot of stuff that's talked about what will be. They have certain things available now, like ChatGPT-4, things that we're pretty accustomed to already. But what will be is what I think is really important to try to understand, because, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to happen a lot quicker. I don't see this being a 20-year ramp up for commercial availability with a lot of the AI products. I really think we're going to see a lot of them in the next 5 years. And just like you said, the last place you want to be is left behind. Imagine from a breed association standpoint, if we did not have email or online registrations or online transfers, or you couldn't get a membership unless you mailed it in. That's the way it was 30 years ago. So this type of stuff is going to change the way we do business, all of us, what we're accustomed to as a society. We've got to be prepared for that from an APHA standpoint within the next 5 years.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, that's why I am in the conversation, is because I know that the job side of things is going to change rapidly again over that next 5 to 10 years. And obviously, as an online tech platform, we need to be on the cutting edge of things, because otherwise the whole world is going to surpass us. So I'm right there with you. Well, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, the only thing else I'd add on the AI piece is I don't think people should be scared of it. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I hate it, I'm scared of it, whatever. Think of it as a tool. Learn how to use the tool. No different than when cars were invented and we used to just ride horses and have wagons. You want to learn how to use that technology and not say, well, it's just going to take jobs away, because that's not going to stop technology. That argument of it's going to take jobs away never stops it. It comes anyway. And what we have to do is figure out how to work with it and use it to our advantage to have a better business and have a better association or a better job, whatever you're working on. So I think that's a key component that I hear often whenever I talk to people about it.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of like that. And I'm probably going to get this wrong. I'm going to butcher this and I'm going to be hated. But that, what is it? Like a Native American proverb that basically says, like, there's two wolves within you and you either feed the good one or you feed the bad one. Like, anything out there, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. And if your intention is to use it for good and use it responsibly, you can do the same with AI. I mean, yes, obviously there are some things that if used incorrectly, it could be a little scary, but there's so much more opportunity, and you really have to worry about, okay, 95% of it's good, 5% of it's bad. Well, I'm going to take a 95 over 5 every day of the week.
Every day. Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Dave, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Jessie, thank you.
Yeah, of course. If anybody has any questions, you guys send them over to us via Of the West, and we'll make sure that Dave gets them. If there's something that you found valuable from today's episode, which I absolutely know there was, definitely share it online for us. Dave will want to hear about it. We want to hear about it. We always want to make sure that we're hitting the mark. And I am so excited about today's conversation. This was an awesome one. Thank you, Dave.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for having me on.
Okay, well, as always, you guys, we will see you back here next week.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.